Hello, and as you can probably guess from that sound, we're going to be talking about the Titanic...
The titties?
The titties today. The Titan Submersible. Welcome, Free Rotation Nation. This is Angie. I'm joined by Becky.
Sorry. It's really bad because I can't stop laughing at the memes.
Like the Little Mermaid going back to rob a billionaire's wallet because Earth's expensive.
That Minecraft National Guard boat where they're picking up the diamonds that are floating on the top of the ocean is still
and the,
like
gold
the best
bars.
one so far. Yeah. Sorry.
And I'm joined by Chris.
Hey.
Chris has had sensitivity training.
No, I'm just your resident titty expert, and I was excited about this episode, and then they talked about boats, and I'm like, fucking ocean.
I'm on a motherfucking boat.
I'm picturing Chris grabbing his own boob. Yep. I'm a titty expert. I know what man boobs feel like.
I do.
I know what
Sweaty, salty, hairy.
Speaking of sweaty, salty, and hairy.
5 minutes. What do you get when you put
5 minutes, a tiny little bullet
in a tiny cigar and seagull farts?
TikTok memes for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, it's so good. And again, probably not even chaos. Like, they probably, realistically, if it went down the way they're thinking it went down, they never knew it happened.
No, they probably heard like some creaking, but that probably happened like starting at 700 feet.
The mathematicians of Reddit said that, the human response will feel like have a response within 150 milliseconds. That's how fast the brain does. At longest, it would have been 26 milliseconds before they felt something.
Yeah.
So they
didn't really feel it. Probably never saw it coming. Their consciousness are probably like, where are we? Did the lights go out?
This is like one of the most
Is anyone there?
current event episodes we will ever do. So like in 5 years, if we're still doing this podcast, like that it was.
We won't be following this party line.
Well, the good news,
we'll be back.
In 5 years, we're going to be like, oh yeah, it was just a shitty made can that they dumped at the bottom of the ocean, and it really imploded.
They really dropped a Diet Coke can in the water and said, good luck.
Hoped for the best.
Yeah.
And like where you psh the top, they just like screw.
It's like masking
welded
tape over the top of it, not even tape.
Good luck. You're going to be fine.
Imagine somebody tells you, like, for $250,000, you can see the remnants of the Titanic. We just have to bolt you into this carbon fiber, like, cylinder thing with no shoes on, and you have a Ziploc bag to pee in. Or you can spend $30 to go to the Las Vegas Titanic exhibit and see the actual stuff from the Titanic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would want to see the Titanic itself.
It would be cool.
It would be cool.
And, like, the thing that gets me is, like, everybody's giving them shit because they were billionaires or whatever, and they spent a bunch of money to go do this and die. But, I mean, it happens every day. Like, people go on vacation, rent cars, whatever. Like,
ski. They just go skiing and die.
Yeah.
Like, that part of it doesn't really...
I guess I think really the big thing that people are talking about is the fact that everybody involved with this, now all the public know, but how unsafe it was as a submersible to begin with.
Well, was it OceanGate?
OceanGate, yeah.
Their website is no longer in existence.
Yeah.
They have taken it down.
As soon as they found where it was, they turned it off.
Oh,
They're like, yeah, that's it. I mean, their
CEO just died.
Yeah.
He was the pilot on the Titan, so where do you really... although you do have the Rothschild, I guess, who could help you. But as soon as I read that he was on the board of directors, I'm like, oh, you were killed.
There are plenty of billionaires. And again, this was you would think with all the money that these people had, you would just buy a reasonable submersible.
You could buy a submarine.
Yeah.
Literally just go buy like a decommissioned submarine from like the U.S. Navy and just call it a day.
You could probably rent one from the Navy for a day.
It's
and
true.
they'd be like, you want to give us a trip for $100 million?
It's once again the proof of hubris of man, like the Titanic. It was unsinkable. A bunch of billionaires got on it, said good luck, have fun, and then it sunk. A bunch of billionaires decided...
GLHF.
I know. A bunch of billionaires 111 years later. You know, it sounds like a great idea. Let's get in this tiny submersible that may or may not be safe and go see the Titanic. By the way, it's called the Titan. In 111 years, the tit will be going down there to look at it with a bunch of billionaires.
And then what did you say, Mr. T?
And then Mr. T.
I pity the fool.
He's going to pity the fool. Just with, all he'll have is a Logitech controller and
a gold chain.
And a gold chain. And he's just going down to like scuba diving gear and he's just going.
I pity the fool who gets in the way.
I don't know why I just pictured a naked Mr. T with just a Logitech controller and a gold chain. Dick swaying, going down.
It's the propeller that he guides himself with. He just swings his nuts in the direction.
He has like titanium carbon fiber like mermaid fins, and he's just swimming and this little scuba diving gear.
He flexes a bicep to go left. Pity the fool. Probably safer than the cigar tin or the Diet Coke can.
Well, so the thing is, like, at least if you're a person trying to dive down, your buoyancy will drag you back up.
True.
Like, you're not getting that far down.
Not unless you eat a lot of cheese.
Well, they did determine that, they sank way earlier than we thought. Pretty much
immediately.
Right away. Yeah.
Yeah, they imploded.
Let's talk about that part.
But it took a while to get submersibles there that could actually go down and see the debris field, which, is scattered 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic. So you got there. Yay.
Sort of.
You're more than a quarter mile away, but close-ish.
Wasn't there like a correlation that they heard some sort of implosion in the water about the time in which they think it would have popped?
That was, the ship heard it through their radar detection, whatever. Mm-hmm. That is supposedly still top secret, which is why they were keeping it quiet for a while. But they're like, could have been anything.
Yeah.
It's just the Titanic. It's just the first class passengers dancing on the Titanic.
I imagine that like the first mate on that ship that was watching it, because I'm sure they have sonar or whatever, was like, hey, there's something going down. Never mind, it's gone.
Yeah.
Just bloop, it's gone now.
So now when people go to see the Titanic, they can also see the debris from the Titan, because Mike Jarvis, the president of the American Salvation Association, said the cost to get the debris parts up would be $250,000 a day.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Seriously, it's so far. It's 2 miles down.
Right. Like, think of how difficult it was to find the Titanic in the first place, and now we know where it is, and it's still difficult to get to the Titanic.
And we found it on accident.
Yeah. Accident.
While looking for other things.
Yeah.
I mean, the Navy had sent the heavy lifting mechanism. It was called Flyaway Deep, which I love that name, by the way.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But they're not sure, what are you going to lift? You've got this heavy lifting mechanism, but everything's in pieces.
Well, I think initially there was some thought that maybe it hadn't imploded and that it possibly just sunk down and that they had run out of oxygen.
Yeah, they thought it had lost power.
They might reach and get it.
And again, they had enough oxygen for 5 days.
Yeah.
However, no food, no water.
No pee-pee places.
No power. They're just, even if that had been the scenario where they just sunk, they're still fucked.
So were there lights on the outside, like the deep sea submersibles?
So
I don't know.
How are they going to see shit down there?
I think it supposedly had lights on the outside, and it had, but it couldn't power itself. I think the power came from whatever was attached to it, and when it came unattached,
the things on the side.
No more power.
Yeah.
So it's just a pill at the bottom of the ocean.
I think my understanding is that there was a ship that was actually directing it to where it was supposed to go, and it was monitoring, telling you which way you needed to go.
And then communications cut off, and they're like,
right.
"Oop,
whoop!" But
you better get in touch with the Coast Guard.
But here's the thing: apparently, every time, because this isn't the first time this submersible's gone down, it's gone down at least a dozen times. Yep. Apparently, they've always lost power. At some point, they always lose it. I think one woman, somebody who went on it, I think last year, said that they lost power for 3 hours.
What's funny is it always loses power at 1,400 feet as well.
Yeah.
The Titanic's at 4,000 feet. What?
Yeah, why would you think you could do this?
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. And these weren't people who you would think would be stupid enough to not think about things, because one of the guys was a French Navy diver.
Yeah.
Named Paul-Henri Marjolais.
He had done dozens of dives for the
Margilliot.
Fancy.
Right, and billionaire Hamish Harding. OrangeGate CEO Stockton Rush. So he really put a lot of
emphasis. A ton of stock, if you will.
In this submersible. And then the British-Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman.
As I said before, Middle Easterns, our favorite terrain are deserts and convenience stores. Yeah. We should have never gone into... He should have known better.
Behold the folly of man.
How dare we breach
it's
something
like Icarus. Yeah, when you think about it.
You flew too close to the sun.
And so we flew too close to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And there's this really crazy, I don't know if... I'm getting all my memes off of TikTok at this point because 2023, guys. But it showed a visual of how far down it was. And it showed It started from like it was showing like different oceans. So it started, and this is how far the Statue of Liberty would go down, how far the San Francisco Bridge is, how far like the Indian Ocean was, how far the Marianas Trench was, and you just kept watching it. And I mean, the Titanic, while it is not Marianas Trench levels, it's deep. Down. It is down
4,000 feet.
Yeah,
and you can understand that. Over 1.5 miles under the water.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like a lot because people run miles all the time. But you have to remember, think of the water pressure. Think of how cold it is.
Dark.
A lot of news reports were saying that if the cylinder had survived and it didn't implode, what would have probably happened is they went into they had hypoxia. Went to sleep
because you're not going to be warm.
Yeah, and if they pulled the bodies out, they would have been preserved.
And when they're that far down, it's not like they could save them quickly,
right?
Because you have to come up slowly.
Yeah. Especially if somebody is alive, it's like deep divers. You can't.
Yeah, you get the bins.
Yeah, you'll get the bins. You have to bring it up slowly. So that's why it was such a big deal to find them.
And carbon monoxide builds up in your bloodstream, and then you die.
Yeah,
and the carbon monoxide thrusters had failed. Bloop. They didn't know. I mean,
right.
It's sad in the sense that it's like,
and again,
people who are, I mean, we as human beings innovate, right? So if we hadn't gone exploring doing these things, we wouldn't be able to fly or go like across the ocean and stuff. But stupid is as stupid does, and this is how we learn from stupid is as stupid does. Well, this isn't
even innovation. We have submersibles that can already do
this,
that are rated and that are registered by the Coast Guard.
This isn't like the Wright brothers building a plane where no one had done it before. Yeah,
this is like me being like, I bet I can build a plane in my backyard.
I guess that's more like the idea that's like privatization of being able to do the things that like our military can do, which I don't agree with in the sense that like our military has a lot more resources to do these things, and there's reasons to do it.
Well, and
science.
That, and again, if you spend the money, you can buy submersibles that are, as far as we know, at least equivalent to what the U.S. government has.
Right, like that EOS, the one who originally found the Titanic. Yeah. Like, they spent their own money and developed this equipment.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're breaking new ground here.
No.
They're just sticking rich assholes.
They broke new ground in stupidity.
Yeah. They're sticking rich assholes in things that are not rated for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And being like, good fucking luck.
I mean, would I want to go down and see the Titanic? Of course. Who wouldn't?
It would be amazing.
Would I have jumped on that and said, hey, you want a free trip? I'm good.
You're going to be bolted shut with 5 other people in this little tiny little divot.
Well, the fact that they signed, like, you're probably going to die. You're going to die. If you die. By the way,
you're going to die.
By the way, death is likely.
You may die. Like, every other sentence was something about dying.
Death is imminent. Would you like to go?
Why, yes, I would.
But it's like you're so rich, you just only thing you have left to gamble with is your life.
You feel like your money provides you some kind of shield.
Well, it feels like someone would have asked the questions like, "Hey, who registered this thing?" You're like, what? We did. Oh, what's it rated up to? 1,400 feet.
And
how far are we going again?
That OceanGate was sued by an employee in 2018 for safety concerns.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the first time people have been like, we're not really.
And he got fired. Like, the same day he basically came out and said there's significant safety concerns, they, like, told him to clean his desk out and get the hell out.
So he's like, you know what, I'll just sue you for your safety. And
you're going to murder people.
And then in walks, what's his biscuits that I can't remember his name now. Rothschild. His name is What's His Biscuits.
Old What's His
Biscuits.
But no,
it's hyphenated.
This is just it is a comedy of errors that all culminated in 5 people dying.
Yeah.
And again, they all went into it willingly except for the son. Apparently he did not want to go.
I do feel bad for him.
He's like, Dad, this seems like a bad idea.
This is like what his dad wanted to do for Father's Day. And he's like, no, son, if you love me, you'll come with us.
No, I'm sure the kid did not have a choice at all.
Yeah. They're Pakistani, man.
Yeah. He was told, you're going to fucking come with me.
But I got you a tie. I don't... Samesies.
I got you a matching helmet. Look, happy Father's Day.
But Dad, I got you a tie for Father's Day. You wanted a wallet? I'll get you the wallet. No, I want to go die.
The things you don't have to deal with when your dad's already dead.
Oof.
Facts.
Damn.
Save like, you spent $200. I spent a $0.
Well, this is awkward.
There's got to be some plus side to it. Anyway. Anywhoozles.
Dead Dad Club.
So, I want to take you to a different time. A different place.
1912?
It's 1910.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I was obsessed with the Titanic when I was a kid.
Yeah. The First Name Club meets on Jekyll Island.
Okay.
And what do they do there? Becky, do you know?
They make a gentleman's club that they have come.
No. That's already been established.
Okay, what are we talking about?
The first name only club. Start plans for the Federal Reserve.
Okay. Wait, okay.
So at the time, the U.S. banking system, we talk about the reserves that the banks have. Your money's guaranteed up to X amount of dollars. You see it whenever you...
250,000 FDIC.
Right. So, most people... So that basically means that if the banks fail, you are guaranteed...
Up to $250,000 worth of your money you have in the bank.
Right. So if I have my $23.76, I'm going to get my $23.76 if the banks fail.
Sons of bitches.
You cockadoodies. But back, especially, remember in 1907 we had the banking crisis, shut down the U.S., almost killed us all. If it wasn't for, not Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, we probably wouldn't exist as the country we are today.
Right.
Damn you, J.P. Morgan. So what happened was the banks at the time had a reserve, but they kept their reserves as reserve. They didn't invest it. They didn't loan it out. The banks make money for themselves and their investors.
Right.
So in a banking crisis, what they were told to do was hang on to those reserves. You have to hold your reserves. You can't loan it out. You can't fund the people their money. You have to keep your reserves. It was literally a reserve. So the Otto, who was a German financier, okay. So going back just slightly, if we wanted to do imports and exports, we had to go overseas to a financial institution because the U.S. also didn't finance anything going out or in from a foreign country. So our banking system was compared to like what it was under the Medicis or Hammurabi.
Right.
That's how far backwards we were. So these gentlemen wanted to bring us to a new banking era. The Federal Reserve. They kept it quiet because at the time it wasn't really looked well upon because the Democratic Party at the time was really opposed to it. They had put it before Congress, on the down low. And the Democratic Party at the time ran against the Federal Reserve saying we don't need this in our country. So remember at the time, Democrats and Republicans were reversed.
Right.
The Democratic Party was the really fiscally conservative party.
Yeah.
So, 1912, the Titanic. J.P. Morgan owns the International Mercantile or something, Marine Mercantile, which owned White Star, which owned the Titanic. Aboard it were 4 people who were adamantly opposed to the Federal Reserve. Guess what happened?
It done sunk it.
The Titanic goes down. J.P. Morgan, who was supposed to be on this, had his own suite with, his own Turkish bath and private bathtubs and masseuses and stuff, decided to stay at a French resort for his massages. It is what happened. They've proven that there were other reasons, but this is the gist of it. I'm not saying I believe this or not, but a lot of the survivors reported, just like you hear about the Twin Towers when they went down, that they didn't hear, when it started going, they heard explosions, which... we'll get into that, but they heard a series of explosions in the bottom of the ship, not, a boom into an iceberg. So they were thinking that the theory is that J.P. Morgan sent a group of people on to set off explosions in the bottom of the ship and sink the Titanic. And then suddenly the National Reserve, the Federal Reserve isn't opposed anymore by these strong people.
So my question would be to that. How much are you going to pay me to hide in the bottom of the Titanic and set off explosions in it where I'm at, knowing what's going to happen?
Yeah, because this isn't like today's day and age where they could have like a Black Hawk waiting and they dive out of the ship onto their little,
Well, you can't set the explosions off by cell phone or beeper.
No.
It's a lighter in your hand and good fucking luck.
That's right. So maybe that's the thing. Did they do it to give their families? But
my thing is, I wonder if the people didn't hear the bottom of the iceberg, piercing the skin and going through, because you have to think, the way they built it, it was basically like a honeycomb structure on the outside. As it pierced it, it would have been like pop, 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 pop. Right. And it's going to sound like an explosion.
Well, and also, I think a lot of the explosions they thought they were hearing at the time was when it popped, it was filling up so quickly.
With water.
It was hitting the furnaces that were inside of that area, because that's where it scraped off on the iceberg was actually where the furnaces were located. So you know what happens when water hits a furnace? It's pop, big old explosion.
Well, and the president of the Polaris Imaging went down, I think this was like 2007, 2008. He took the new acoustic imaging down, and so back in the day, there was a guy who had said, I don't think an iceberg hit and made one big gouge.
Right.
You know, like they're thinking there's a big hole in the bow, blah, blah, blah. He said, I think it's a series.
Yeah.
So
as they scraped against it
and
or
he
whatever.
was like poo-pooed and stuff like, no, it's obviously a huge hole. But it wasn't. It was 6 small gashes along the side where they hit the iceberg.
Yeah, as they skimmed against it.
Right, and they were going so fast that they said it's like firemen's hoses, which would have sounded like explosions.
Well, the thing is, like, and when you think about an iceberg, it's not a knife blade that you just go into. It's a giant floating bunch of different crevasses and corners and edges, and it is actually moving too. So as you hit it, it's going to move.
I think the recent study that came out about, and this the crazy part is how much people, like how people are still fascinated by this. I mean, I was obsessed with this when I was a kid. But if it had hit head on, the chambers that were made to make sure it was unsinkable would have worked. Because it was going so fast, and then they tried to stop it so quickly because they were trying to turn it. It wasn't meant to turn the way it was. When they turned, it hit that side, and because of the way it slowed down, it was hitting so slowly.
And you've heard, like, you could be on a boat, if something bumps the bottom, it sounds like boom. And it's just could be like a fish, but it sounds like could be an explosion. What happened to the bottom of the boat?
Well, if you've ever been on a John boat or a small kayak and you hit a limb, it's thud.
I mean, this to me,
or even a snake in the water with his head up above. That's what it sounds like.
I mean, I think my thing is the fascination from it comes with how this incident pretty much set the precedent for any safety measures taken on any sort of shipping or
except the Titan,
except the Titan,
or the Hindenburg,
or anything like. Well, no, that's a hot, different. What I'm talking about, but like the safety protocols of having lifeboats for every person on there, that other ships cannot turn their systems off, because back in the day, when the Titanic happened, they only had one person manning the machine that would listen for any sort of SOS. At like midnight, they could shut it off and they could turn it back at 6 o'clock. Well, the Titanic's SOS started going. I think the guy actually turned it off early, like at 11:56. 11:57 is when the Titanic starts like sitting out their SOS. They were the closest ship. They were like 2 miles out.
With the Californian?
It wasn't the Californian. The Californian's the one that saved most of the people. They were the farthest out. But this other ship...
And they had trouble. That's why they couldn't get there in time. They actually just watched it sink.
Right. Yeah, they couldn't get there in time. But there was another ship, I think that was only about 2 miles out. I wish I could remember the name. But their operator actually turned their machine off early. And if they had been there when it was supposed to be turned on, or it had been handled like 24 hours like they do now, they would have been there in time to save... I think like at least
89%.
It was a good 70% of the people there, but because they shut it off, that was it.
I like the theory behind if you get fucked between 12:01 and 5:59, good luck, assholes.
It's like
like what?
I think
this is when something's probably gonna happen.
And here's the thing: I think the reason why let's remember the Titanic was operating at an unsafe speed, and at the time in which they were traveling, it was the best practice was to stop moving at the middle of the night because
you can't see shit.
Well, in Newfoundland with all those icebergs, and it was the worst winter they had.
I don't think we had radar at the time, right?
No. It was being developed. Guy sitting up in a little crow's nest, just hanging out, like making sure. Yeah.
No, we're good.
So the best practice, most ships would just stop for the night and not move because of the fact of the ice field or whatever they would call it. But because the Titanic was trying to beat its time,
not the filthy Irish, they keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean so there was no idea that something like that would happen because it was so out of the ordinary for those ships.
What's significant about the people hearing explosions? I don't really mind to the J.P. Morgan sent people because
that would be fun.
One of the guys that they said was against the Federal Reserve was actually 100% on board.
Yeah,
with the Federal Reserve.
The thing is,
like, how could you not be?
It would have also been cheaper to just hire an assassin.
Exactly, just go in and
it's not a suicide mission.
Choked on the foie gras. Yeah. He drowned in the Turkish pool.
Stab him in the back and rob him while he's walking through.
What
New
are they
York.
gonna do on a freaking plane?
Cameras.
Like I said, a plane on a ship. Exactly.
Who did that guy was on a plane? Wow.
Yeah, they had planes back then. But so, you know, what happened 2 years after the Titanic? The Lusitania was sunk. So a lot of people believe because there was an unusual ship, like they couldn't really identify it. It was a submarine, was visible like near the Titanic wreckage site. Lots of people in the Californian saw it. And even survivors of the Titanic said, yeah, we saw this and it just stayed there and watched us. I mean, I'm thinking, what can a sub do to help you? But German U-boat isn't going to help you anyway. But some people believe this was the first, time a U-boat shot down a ship.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that actually makes more sense. You know, not after we know about the six gashes now. But there is a permit, though, right now. There's a treaty that has been sent to nations to sign saying that civilians don't have access to the Titanic. They can't go down there.
Stop killing yourself, assholes.
Well, I think it also makes sense because the Titanic is historically, it's so famous, but at the same time, you're rushing what's left of it because I think in 100 years it's going to be gone because of the metal-eating bacteria down there. And treasure divers trying to get things from it to sell to black market stuff. I mean, I get it. I think... I mean,
it is in open water, so.
And let's be honest, like, here's the thing. We're only about 40 years out from when we found the Titanic. A lot of people still thought it went down as one piece. And people thought it was crazy when people were like, no, it broke in two pieces. They're like, no.
40 years out.
Yeah.
You understand how weight works when it takes on water?
But then, you know, people thought they ran straight into it. You know, nobody really knew until they were able to actually examine how it happened.
Well, you even had people arguing, like, did it break in half? Did it sink as one piece? Because there were two different... the survivors say, no, it broke.
Yeah, well...
And it is in two pieces.
And again, people are panicking, and if one guy says it went down as one piece, and another guy says it was in two, who are you going to believe? Well, neither one of them, because they're not paying attention to how the fucking boat's breaking.
Yeah, they're trying to get the hell out.
Get off the goddamn boat.
Well, and I was about to say...
and get away from it before you get sucked down.
Yeah. And the film industry had, prior to 1987, had always pictured it as it going down as one piece. So people only had that idea because of the film industry. But it's one of those things where we think we understand it, but it's so crazy because we really will never understand it.
To me, it's like breaking a caramello. You snap it, and the gooey insides are all spread out on the ocean floor between the two pieces.
So I think we we understand it way better now.
Yes.
Basically, don't go fast at night and hit shit that'll sink you.
Well, here's the ironic part of this. Last month, OceanGate had actually done 3D imaging of the Titanic, like the perfect 3D imaging of what it looked like, even from its debris field and all of that.
Right. And
it's so eerie to look at. And you're like, wow, these people really have technology down. A month later, their little tiny cigar goes and
they should have taken more time. If they wanted to do this, take time.
Yeah. My mom told me, and I don't know if this has been confirmed or not because I really haven't heard it anywhere other than my mother's mouth, but apparently Stockton Rush's wife is the great-great-granddaughter of Isidore and somebody else, Strauss, who died on the Titanic.
Who was one of the people opposed to the Federal Reserve.
But he stayed on the boat. Him and his wife could have gotten on the boat.
Well, she wouldn't leave him.
Right. So they stayed on the boat and died.
And he's co-owner of Macy's, to put it.
Yeah, I can't remember what his name was.
No, you had it.
No, his first name. I almost said Levi Strauss, and I don't know if that's correct.
So are you trying to surprise me that billionaires are related to billionaires? Because that doesn't work.
Well, no, it's just ironic that the wife...
It was Isidore Strauss,
Yeah. It was ironic because the great-great-granddaughter of this guy, her husband just died trying to go see the Titanic.
It's Benjamin Guggenheim, John Jacob Astor, Isidore Strauss. I don't remember the fourth one.
Yeah, but if you think about it, like, even on the Titanic, most of those people had most of the money in the world.
Yeah.
Their families are still stupid rich. When you have generational wealth, it don't go away.
No.
It's just rich forever unless...
I mean, and there's lots of conspiracy theories about the Titanic going down, about what happened.
That
one
it
of the
wasn't
theories,
the Titanic?
That it was Oceania? It was its sister ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, was being sued, and they're like, no, look, it's still floating.
There was a lot of conspiracy theories, too. Like, I think 20 years before, I think it was in the 1890s, a book came out called The Titan. And it was a similar thing about an unsinkable ship called the Titan.
Oh, yeah.
And the boat sank. So people were
exactly like the book.
It's exactly like the book. And this was 1893.
Well, it's really weird that the submersible is now named the Titan because you had this book with this. Like, were you trying to, like, signal to us that you're being murderized.
I think the Lord's trying to tell us that we shouldn't have tits at sea and women should stay on the shore.
I mean, to be fair, what was the sailors myths about sailors? You never put a woman on a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying
you have to have at least one cat and keep women off.
Yeah. I was thinking more so that the Titans of Greek mythology are like, stop naming your shit after me because I'm going to sink your shit.
Poseidon's down there like, this shit again? I'm fucking sick of this.
Stop it. Can't you name it something stupid like Pornhubian or something like that? Come on, man.
I'm going to name mine 100% unsinkable. Let's go.
It's just, I don't know. It's, to me, one day we should do like an episode just about the full thing about the Titanic because I think there's a lot of, the reverberations of what happened were so
and I don't think people understand, like, when we say this was so much money to build this, they had a recreation of the Versailles castle. Yeah. They served, like, duck and foie gras for their first dinner. They had Turkish baths.
And on top of it, White Star Line pretty much fucking cursed. Their boats all sank. Lusitania, Titanic, there was another one.
Well, you know who's the White Star? Lucifer. So, I mean... Whoopsie. Well, the Catholics at the time working on the Titanic, some people say that they sabotaged it because the numbering for the Titanic, if in reverse, said no Pope. It was like 3, 4, or 3, 9.
09.
09, yeah, and then 3, 4. Or 04. So it looked like no Pope.
That is weird.
In Leet.
It is, though, and it also, to me, it was the biggest ship in the world, but now, like, a Royal Caribbean ship is bigger than it.
Not even close.
Like, twice as big, and you're like, you don't think about it. It wasn't actually that big.
Goes down a lot, too.
So they don't go down so much as they just get stranded.
Yeah.
They just, engine broke.
And
just tilt over.
Yeah.
I think the most recent scariest thing, and this is not recent, but, like, the scariest thing that I've heard about boat sinking was that Korean tourist boat that was going from... Jeju Island, and it had those school kids on it, and it just went...
Oh, it was a ferry, right?
Yeah, it was a ferry, and it just sunk, and everybody was trapped in it. And I was like, I think it was 2014.
And the kids were trying to tell them it's a problem, turn it around, and they wouldn't listen because they're just high schoolers.
Well, like, that's 10 years ago? Like, 2014, people are still sinking and dying in ships.
Well, very recently, there was that cruise ship that in a storm, there was a trough they hit, and it... Psh.
So here's the thing.
I'm not going on a bit.
We don't breathe water. So as long as we're above it, if anything goes wrong, we're fucked.
And some Medusa like octopus comes to you and like, would you like to breathe underwater as your ship's sinking? You're like, fuck yes.
Yes, I would.
I want to be where not the people are. Let's go.
I want to be where the fishies are.
I want to fertilize the shit out of your eggs. Let's do this.
I'll come clean your house.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that, to me, like, it's going to be like, that version of it is like, I can't believe we still fly out of the sky occasionally. Like, we're not meant to fly. We should have feet on solid ground.
For $250,000, guys, I can get you to the moon in a hot air balloon.
A slingshot. It's not even a hot air balloon. I got a slingshot. I'll fucking fling you.
Give me $250K and I will throw you off a ship and you can sink.
Well, if you want to talk about like Elon Musk and being involved in shit, they were using Starlink navigation for this. For this like little.
To be fair, they did get to where they were going.
Yeah, that's not his fault.
No, I'm just saying, like, once again, proving Elon Musk is involved in everything.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, if this had worked, it would have been like a game changer.
Yeah, and I get why. Here's the thing: when I was saying earlier about it being innovative, if you could make a privatization of a submersible that survives that, think about where. We have to rely on, like, the military or science to get us to somewhere, like red tape, the government, to get us to places like the Marianas Trench. Places like that. But if you could just subvert all of that.
Yeah, but if you just bought the proper equipment instead of trying to build it.
No, and I totally get that.
Becky, you just said exactly why people think it was intentionally sunk.
Because of, red tape government stuff?
Yeah, privatization.
Well,
I think they were just lazy and cheap.
I think so, too. I think they were trying to maximize profits.
Because we know what you had a Logitech controller and you had windows that weren't portholes that
were rated to 1,400 feet below water. The thing is, like, especially, and if you're not familiar with water is 1 point...
Have you had water before?
No, I'm just saying...
Are you familiar with the water?
The weight of it is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. So when you get miles underwater, that weight is cumulative, and the pressure crushes.
It's exponentially cumulative. Yeah. So we're talking, like, to the something power.
Yeah, it gets really, really... And heavy is not the right word, but imagine everything trying to press in on you as hard as it can in every direction.
Right. It's trying to displace you. Water displaces, and you're going to be displaced.
Yeah.
If you're not, again,
you against the water wins.
And again, these things were rated to 1,400 feet underwater. They were going to 4,000. They weren't even rated to half of the pressure they were going to be under, or the atmospheres, I guess, technically.
The thing that's crazy to me, and I think people don't really realize this if you don't think about it often, which for some reason I do. We know more about how to do space travel than we do underwater sea travel, and we are on Earth. We haven't. What is it? We haven't explored 77% of the Earth's water. Yeah. Like the oceans are just we know stuff, but we don't know anything past where we can get to.
Really difficult.
Yeah. So the idea that, we could we probably will make it to space easier than anybody will ever make it to the deepest part of the ocean. We've had made it to space, but I'm talking about like
deep
just general
space.
Population.
Yeah.
And going deep space and being able to go farther and go to a planet.
Well, it's also different. Like when you get outside of our atmosphere, there's nothing other than what's already out there pressing against you, trying to prevent you from moving.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not actively trying to murder you.
Yeah.
It just, if you end up in it, you're going to die.
I mean, same kind of scenario where it's pressure against you, space and ocean, but in space, it's just vast and nothing.
And it's a vacuum.
It's a vacuum.
Space is pretty much the opposite.
It sucks everything out of you.
Yeah.
And underwater, it's pushing everything into you.
Yeah, and we are very finite, squishy beings.
Of course.
So
we have an organ
on
our outside layer.
We're bags of meat and water.
Yeah. We literally drop anything into the deepest part of the ocean and see what happens to it. It goes pop. So, I don't know. But it's one of those things where, once again, people just become fascinated by this idea, and I think it's just the mystery of it. The fact that we are still fascinated by the Titanic 111 years later, it's cray.
And one of the conspiracies I was listening to earlier, which was just fucking ridiculous, was that the idea was these people went down there and faked their own death because they were all billionaires, so they could start over somewhere else.
That's actually pretty fun, though.
With a new, start a new identity. My issue is, if I'm a bank and these billions of dollars are listed to Pfizer Permanente, you show up and hey, I'm John Smith. Remember me? I'd be like, can I see some paperwork to get that money?
Yeah.
Oh, no?
And if you start
That's our billions now.
That's right. And if you start moving that much money, they also notice it. The banking institutions
we don't live
are
in that world where we're secret super spy agents where we can just have a new identity.
They don't have just a cave of gold bars and we're like, oh, he's clearly worth $1 billion because he's a dragon. No. Most of these billionaires' money is digital. None of it is actual currency. Right. So
you're wiring yourself. There's still a digital footprint.
Yeah, and the banks didn't give you permission to do that.
They all have.
Can I withdraw $3 billion today?
No. They all have really, really big beds. They hide their money in their mattresses in.
I promise.
All of it.
Oh.
I am the son. I'm Suleiman. I'm back. Can I get some of that money? Oh no. Oops. Guess I'm broke.
Well, and I also thought it was crazy. People were like, "Are you going to be able to get recover the bodies?" And I'm pretty sure whoever looks at them the fuck we can't.
Not only that, but the pressure is going to compress them.
Yeah, they go boom. They gone. I mean,
the meaty
you
parts.
might find a tooth, maybe.
Yeah, the bones may survive, but the meaty parts, that's getting ripped off pretty
and
quick.
And the bones are going to be crushed. They'll be crushed. So you might find a tooth or a toe bone.
Well, it imploded.
Yeah.
Hello. It's not like they just floated down to the bottom of the ocean. It imploded.
It's also not like floating down to the bottom of a lake.
Yeah.
It is miles underwater. The things that survive down there are going to shred through them pretty quick.
Yeah.
The weight's going to peel the skin and meat off whatever bones manage to survive pretty fast. I mean, it's the ocean.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I know. I don't know.
Everything returns. Welcome to the loam.
As much as I am obsessed and I know an inordinate amount of facts about the Titanic, unless it was safety protocol science, science approved, military grade approved, I would not be getting on any. You want to convince me to go? Put an actual bathroom in there. So that's the perfect number one way to prove that you can get on there.
Only way I would ever go down there and look is if they managed to put a tunnel that was outside of the water, but surrounded by it, that you could take an elevator down and look around.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only way. And even then I'd be like, well, if there's a hurricane, we're fucked, huh?
I don't even like going in those tubes at Disney World. I don't even want to go in that.
You got freaked out just going in that weird tunnel thing in the
Georgia
aquarium.
Yeah. Because you know what? That thing is pressure on it. Even that much water, there's pressure.
There is, but the good news is it's probably rated for 10 times whatever that pressure is.
That
a foot and a half thick.
It's better than that submersible has.
Yes,
they probably could have used that to get down there to the Titanic.
Yeah, I don't understand.
It's
spend a little bit more money.
That's the thing, is they were going cheap, and everybody wants to act like there's some big conspiracy theory. My conspiracy is these motherfuckers are cheap.
Have you met humans? We're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and we want money.
It was businessmen trying to maximize profits, and you're gonna cut corners.
Well, I was about to say, just like the Titanic, it's the hubris of man. Cut corners on lifeboats, cut corners on material, and look what happened.
Which is shocking that the CEO piloted it, knowing that he skimped on it. That's why some people think
the hubris of man
that it was changed out, like that he thought. But I'm like, no, there's a paperwork trail.
There is, but what are the odds that he even looked at it or was involved in that side of it
really at all? Or he's getting a report saying, like, this is fine. Because you know what I do in my job? I hand a report up saying, I looked at the details, everything's fine. That's what you get at those high levels.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you physically don't inspect the parts.
No, I get it from the floor.
If something
and
fails
then I make a report.
on user end, you're going to be like, well, it looked good.
And you have to remember, he's gone down several times in this thing. At some point, you get to the point where you don't believe anything's going to happen to you because it's already happened. Like, you've tried it. It's not like it's
he's probably like,
time.
I pushed the limits to 1,800. I was fine. It's at 13. I got to 18. We're going to be fine.
Well, they had gone and seen the Titanic. So I think it just gets to the point where it's like, yeah, maybe the first couple of times it works.
But then you put wear and tear on it. It's called metal fatigue.
Yeah, you have, under that pressure, you have to replace everything. In race cars, they are high pressure, high heat.
Yep.
Every third race, when my dad was drag racing, we'd have to rebuild the motor.
Right.
High pressure, high heat.
Think of the tires. They can only do so many laps. They have to come get the tires replaced.
We were drag racing, and we replaced the tires every run. Every single run. High pressure, high heat causes damage. Yeah. It just is what it is. These things is under immense pressure. Replace everything. Yeah. All the skin, all the bolts, everything.
Metal doesn't survive well in salty water and pressure.
So we use metal because it's malleable. You know what happens to things that are malleable under real pressure?
Not even that.
They get thin.
It was carbon fiber.
Yeah, parts of it.
Yeah, parts of it were carbon fiber. Now, explain to me, one of the most malleable materials we have. Yeah, one of the most malleable materials we have to make anything. Hell, we use it for 3D printing sometimes. Like, just, like, creating things that we can use.
I think your bumper is carbon fiber, right?
Yeah, most of them are just fiberglass, but, like, you can buy, like, aftermarket carbon fiber parts because they're lighter. But if you hit it with a hammer... It's done. Fucked.
Yeah.
There is no fixing
it. I know a lot of racing bikes have carbon fiber frames.
Because they're light.
Yeah.
But if anything happens at all, it's trash.
Yeah. And look what happened.
So if you have one thing give, you're just done. The whole thing's gone. And so he'd been down several times. I mean, you have to rebuild a new one at this point, dude.
It needs a skin. Wow. Again, I think they were just trying to maximize profit. And unfortunately, 5 people were on that damn cigar tube when it went under, and...
The Diet Coke can.
I mean, their kids' profits are now maximized, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yikes. Well...
Plus billionaire, bro.
What we've learned today...
Don't name your shit anything after a Titanic.
Don't go to the Titanic in a thing called the Titan and expect to survive it. I'm sorry.
That was apparently made in someone's backyard with parts they found.
I was gonna say, can we go
get that off that go-kart over there, son?
Go get one of those gas like things that they hook up, the utility hooks up at your house or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll just go $250. We'll go in Lake Lanier and see what we can find.
Well, it seems like
oh yeah, I saw that meme.
As an engineer or whoever's building this thing or whatever, you'd be like, okay, how deep is the Titanic? Oh, 4,812 feet. Cool. Let's make sure everything's rated for 7,000 feet minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Let's have a little leeway.
And just in case we're down there, something happens, let's make sure we have extra
I think a lot of reports said that it was rated for 1,400, but, they say, like, it really could maximize up to 4,000.
No, we're not maximizing.
That's what I'm saying.
What's the rating?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, he probably thought, no, we can go the maximum will be correct. Don't do that shit. Don't be stupid.
Buy what it's rated for.
If it's worth your life to do something and it's going to kill you, you might want to pay for the best.
Oh, I need this extra inch of plexiglass.
That would be
we'll
like
pay for it.
Driving a motorcycle and using a bike helmet because it could handle it.
Well, I was thinking
but it shouldn't.
Buying a car without airbags because it's cheaper. Okay, cool.
Oh my goodness.
I just think at some point one of the engineers had to have been like, "Hey, boss, this seems like a bad plan." And everybody's like, "Yeah, shut the fuck up, John."
Well, it did happen. He got fired.
Yeah, really, that's. Mm-hmm. At some point, he had to have been like, "This seems awful." Same thing with like, before the Challenger explosion, one of their engineers was like, "We can't launch. This is wrong." Right. And they're like, "It'll be fine."
Yeah.
It's never fine.
It's never okay. If one person has a legitimate...
If one of the engineers... It's not like it's some religious dude on the ground being like,
yeah,
"You're spiting the gods." He's like, "I built this fucker. Something is bad here."
I'm telling you that this is overheating. We used the wrong gaskets. Isn't that what it was? They put the wrong gaskets in? It was or like, O-rings or something?
It was O-rings around like a bolt that he's like weren't the right size or whatever. And he's like, okay.
And any vibration.
Yeah, it was over.
Yeah, that's it. He was right.
But they never, again.
I mean, you hate to be proven right when it's something like that.
Well, what are you going to do? You did your due diligence. We're like, we can't launch. Yeah. We have to change this. And they're like, it's a 30-cent O-ring, bro. It'll be fine. And you're like, no, it's not.
It's not.
Well.
Because anything, and the thing is, like, people don't think about it because if your car's check engine light comes on, you can drive it for a while most of the time if it's not something catastrophic. Not supposed to. Yeah. The problem is every little thing under either if you're going to space or underwater, every issue is catastrophic. Every single one.
Speaking of catastrophic.
Yeah, it's all disaster, even the small things. So you can't ignore that kind of stuff.
The moral of the story is, guys, just stop.
I think next time somebody does something like this, they need to do a video montage of like the Challenger and the Titan and the Titanic and be like, watch this shit.
So years
These
ago,
people thought they had it.
The U.S. government was funding something they called the space elevator, which was basically a very long-range railgun that they were going to launch things at the moon.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard about this, I'm like, oh, we're going to lose a lot of people to this shit because this is a terrible plan. They never actually supposedly did it. I think they may have launched like dummies and were like, oh, whee! Everybody does.
Honestly, in talking about last week's episode, this is why the aliens are coming back. We're just doing things to try and kill ourselves.
Can you imagine they're like observing, they're like, you won't believe what these motherfuckers did today.
They're trying to slingshot themselves into space.
They keep track of the Darwin Awards for real.
Today's winners talked in Russian.
It's like Earth is literally the people of Walmart meme. Just straight around it.
God. The people of Earth.
The people of Earth. And they're like scrolling on their 4chan site like, look at this dumbass.
Look at this submersible they use.
It's horrifying to think that we're all Florida man.
That's true.
To them.
It's true.
I mean, not me, because I'm not launching my ass into space off a railgun.
No, but you know what? They probably see like people like me just trip over nothing. Be like, they just trip over nothing.
Well, even I think
falls off curbs.
Even when they watch us go into space, like when we use our rockets, they're like, are these monkeys lighting gasoline on fire and hoping it lifts them far enough? And then we do it, and they're like, huh.
We survived that one, yeah.
Look at you guys figuring out mortality.
Check one. But no, it's just all crazy. And again, don't go to the Titanic. It's not.
Yeah, don't do it. You could go to $30 in Las Vegas. They have a Titanic exhibit.
You can also buy things that were on the Titanic for reasonable pricing.
I actually just suggest watching the 1997 blockbuster film Titanic. Not only do you get to see what happened, but you also get to see Kate Winslet's tits.
Which,
once again, circling back to this conversation 100 years from now. Tits.
You know what?
They are tits, but they're super medium.
So I'm sure at the beginning you guys wondered how we get to tits. There it is.
You're welcome, internet.
Get a boob job, Kate Winslet.
Poor lady. All right, goodbye, guys.
Bye.
Love you.
Stop lifting your skirt, piano teacher Kate Winslet.
What?